Episode 265 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. Oh, we are in the end game now. Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret procedure.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, and telling your friends about our podcast. We continue to grow, and that's all because of you. I really do appreciate it. Man, it's getting close, baby. I could feel it. Is there anything better than October? I mean, if you're a sports fan, right, which I am. I mean, this past weekend, we had playoff baseball here in New York. We had the NFL. Hockey season starts this week. Basketball season starts in about 2 weeks. I just love October in New York. I mean, look, I'm a Yankee fan. My wife happens to be a Met fan. It is a mixed marriage. It is very difficult sometimes, especially when they're both in the playoffs. I did get to go to the Yankee game on Saturday night, watch that great one-run win they had over the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City Royals are a very good young team, and I don't like giving them hope, right? So I was a little worried in that game because they did get some hope early. But I mean, you know, my entire weekend revolved around sports. And there is nothing that brings us together as a nation better than sports. We all love sports. Maybe we don't all love sports, but you know what I mean. Sports is one of those things that people on the left and people on the right all care about. Probably in the same numbers, right? I mean, there are probably people on the right who don't care about sports, and there are probably people on the left that definitely people on the left who don't care about sports. But it is one of those things that we can have these arguments without going nuts. And the arguments are very fact-based, right? When you have an argument about sports, you're arguing about statistics. You know, intangibles come up, things that you can't really pin down. But for the most part, you want to compare people. You're saying, okay, how many championships did they win? What are their stats? How many yards did they throw for? How many hits did they have? You know, I'm watching the Yankees on Saturday night, sitting in the stadium on a beautiful early autumn night, watching my team in the playoffs. I mean, all my life I've been watching these guys in the playoffs, but watching guys like Aaron Judge, then thinking to myself how great it would be if Aaron Judge and Ohtani faced each other in the World Series, right? A Yankee-Dodgers World Series. I mean, one, it'd be great for ratings, but two, it'd be great for baseball because you have the two best players from two of the biggest cities in the nation going at it. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, I know you're listening to me around the country from other parts of the country where, you know, you're not in the biggest city, and that's great. And I love that. I love that Milwaukee's in the playoffs. I love, or was in the playoffs. I love that Kansas City's there, Cleveland, you know, I mean, and they're all strong teams. But this Ohtani guy is an amazing athlete. I mean, he is literally a modern-day Babe Ruth. He was a fantastic pitcher and a fantastic hitter, and they decided he'd be more valuable as a hitter, and they were right. He had a 50-50 season, America. 50 home runs and 50 steals. In fact, I think it was 53 home runs and 59 steals. That's crazy. So to watch him and Judge go at it in the postseason would be, I think, epic. I think it would be an epic battle. I would love a 7-game series with those two guys. Judge has got to get his bat going. He was pretty light on his bat last night, but I think he will. But this is October, right? October is a great sports month because everything's going on, and of course, politically, October is the final stretch of the election, right? They are going to be out there stumping, working it, trying to get their voters out. Now, I am a little disappointed. Now, look, Trump never fails to disappoint me. But him lying and putting misinformation out there about the federal response to the hurricane that hit North Carolina and Georgia is just despicable to me. Them trying to demagogue around this $750 payment that, by the way, FEMA has always given out. It's kind of like, here's some money, immediate needs money for people. It's not their entire grant, but people have lost their homes and they're living in hotels being paid for by FEMA. And here's some cash to, get things you might need immediately. But FEMA is there on the ground and they are working to help the people who are impacted by these storms. And there's another hurricane churning in the Gulf right now that is sure to hit Florida by the end of the week. So, what we don't need in the face of a crisis like this is people putting misinformation out there. Trump's people are out there telling people that FEMA's going to take your home. That is just false. FEMA's going to help you rebuild your home. I don't want people in North Carolina and Georgia, or maybe, Florida, if it gets hit by this next hurricane, to, God forbid, not seek the help they are entitled to as Americans from FEMA in the wake of these disasters because of the misinformation being put out there by a presidential campaign. It is despicable. It is lower than low. And here we are in October, where we should all be enjoying the bounty of sports. And we got to deal with this nonsense. Listen to this. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, at ChristopherHahn.com. Follow me on YouTube. I'm at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube. Check me out there. I'm doing a lot of these rants on YouTube now, so you can see what I look like when I'm doing it. I'm not doing this one on it today, but I will be doing a lot of my rants on YouTube in my television studio. So check me out on YouTube at The Aggressive Progressive and watch me on News Nation. I will be on a lot the next couple of weeks through the election. News Nation, it is news for all Americans. So, as we head into the last couple of weeks of the campaign, it's clear to me that things are obviously picking up. Vice President Harris will be doing a media blitz this week, they're calling it. She's going to be on 60 Minutes Monday night. She's going to be on Howard Stern on Tuesday and Colbert on Monday night as well, I believe. For those of you who've been listening to me for any amount of time, know that I am a huge fan of Howard Stern. I was excited when he interviewed Joe Biden. I'm even more excited that he is going to interview Kamala Harris. I think that had Hillary Clinton gone on the Stern Show in 2016, where disinformation wasn't as great as it is today, I think that Hillary Clinton would have won. And I'm not just saying that. I think that Stern's audience, which is largely male, would have heard a different side of Hillary Clinton when he did the interview with her years later. It was an amazing interview. The thing about Stern, and I tell this to people, like, there were people that come on Stern who I was not aware of. He had Charlie XCX on last week. I never knew who she was. Now I know I'm familiar with some of her music because it's very popular, but I didn't know anything about her. And now I'm interested in her. I happen to be a fan of Lady Gaga, and I'm a fan of Lady Gaga because she went on the Howard Stern Show, and the interview he did with her was amazing. And it was an amazing interview that kind of drew her to my attention and really showed me the talent in her. So is it possible that he does this with a politician running for president of the United States? Yes, I think it is. If she's going on there and she's going to be honest and she's going to be open and she's going to have a conversation with him, I think it's going to be great. And you're going to hear some people saying, well, isn't this wrong for her to go on with this guy and all the things in his past? Well, I'll tell you, one of the things in his past was Donald Trump used to go on the show all the time. Donald Trump went to Howard Stern's wedding. Howard Stern went to Donald Trump's wedding. And Donald Trump used to go on the Stern show back in the 90s and early 2000s and would basically rate women when he was on there. Rate with a T, just in case you hear me. Very different than having a conversation about policy. And I would encourage Donald Trump to go on Howard Stern right now and have a conversation with Howard Stern, who is not a fan of Donald Trump for president. And I would also encourage Kamala Harris to do some more serious interviews too this week. I would go on Jake Tapper. I would sit down with Bret Baier and have a conversation, or somebody else on Fox that might be fair to her. Martha McCallum, perhaps. Now, they are definitely center right, and it would be a difficult interview, but it wouldn't be a terribly unfair. It's not like she's going to go on Hannity, but I do think that she should mix it up with some form of right-wing celebrity and just go where the votes are. And I'm not saying that there are votes at Fox News. I'm just not. But I do think that all these people out there crying that she, they don't know who she is and they haven't told her enough. Or look, guys, last week, the court in D.C. unsealed special counsel Jack Smith's indictment of Donald Trump. An indictment that showed the guy had depraved indifference towards a mob that was threatening to kill his VP when he was told that Vice President Pence had to be evacuated to save his life. His response was, so what? That's just, look, here's a guy who stood by him for 4 years, who stood by him through some crises in the campaign. And, because he decided to put the Constitution over the ambitions of Donald Trump, by the way, and over his own ambitions, I might add. Because had Donald Trump been reelected president, Mike Pence would be the heir apparent right now. He'd be running for president as we speak. He'd be in the final days of his own presidential campaign. Instead, his career within the Republican Party is over. Why? Because he rightfully determined that the vice president of the United States does not get veto power over the election. That is not a power the vice president has. And by the way, I would hope that Republicans right now out there supporting Donald Trump would actually agree with that statement. Otherwise, they are giving Kamala Harris veto power over the election that she's running in right now. Do you want that? Do you really think that Mike Pence could have thrown out the votes of different states? Because if you do, please, let me know. Maybe Kamala Harris will throw out some state delegations. But I don't believe she should. I don't believe she can. And that's not what the Constitution says. The people vote, right? The people vote and they determine who the president of the United States is. And Donald Trump, for all his whining and complaining, never proved a thing. Never proved a single thing. 60 courts threw out his cases. The Congress did not uphold his appeal. He lost. He is a loser. And he was bad for this country. We have to start reminding people why he was bad for this country. We got to remind people that the reason why Mike Pence was in danger is because Donald Trump sent an angry mob to the Capitol. And while they were there rampaging through the Capitol, was tweeting bad things about Mike Pence. And that's why he almost died that day, or had to be evacuated that day. We threw him out of office for a reason, America, because he failed us as president. Don't let him back. Stay put. More to come. Monday was a year since Hamas attacked Israel, killing thousands and taking hostages. Let's not forget, with all of the talk about what's going on in the Middle East, let us not forget how this started. It started when Hamas killed people at a music festival, raped women, butchered children, took hostages. Let's just not forget that. I've been hearing all this talk about the Middle East and who's responsible for what and when and what should the U.S. do and why hasn't Kamala Harris solved this already. There has been a conflict raging in the Middle East for thousands of years. I'm not exaggerating. Thousands of years. It predates the establishment of Israel as a state. It predates the United States of America. The only thing that calmed it for a little while was the occupation by the Romans and the occupation by the Brits. But beyond that, there has been conflicts in the Middle East. And if you think that Kamala Harris is going to solve it, 10 weeks into a campaign for president, you're crazy. And if you think that Donald Trump is going to become president of the United States and wave a magic wand, and all of a sudden the conflicts will disappear in the Middle East because he's strong, that's even crazier. And if you believe one way or the other that this needs to be resolved, you might want to ask the question, who would you rather have in a chaotic world? The traditional view in the news media is that everything bad that happens in the world benefits Trump. I take the alternate view. I think that when you're looking at a chaotic world, do you want somebody who's going to make it more chaotic, or do you want somebody who's going to be a little bit more calm in the face of it? I want the calm person. I want somebody who's going to take the reins and have judgment and wisdom and listen to their advisors and get alternate views before they make a decision based on their gut. Donald Trump's all gut. And I'm not just making a fat joke, even though that would fit here too. He's all gut. He's impulse. He's all ego. There's no rationale to a lot of the things he does. Remember the 2020 GOP platform. We support Donald Trump. They couldn't come up with a platform because Donald Trump didn't want to take the time to have a platform, and it wouldn't matter at all because he would change his mind on almost anything. So you mean to tell me that in a chaotic world, we want somebody who's going to make it more chaotic? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. None. I think we want a president that's going to calm things down. That's going to stand by our allies. And believe me, Israel is our ally. And we will stand by them, no matter who the president is. That doesn't mean that we don't want to see a diplomatic solution to what's going on there right now. I do not want to see a broader war in the Middle East between Israel and Iran, although it looks like that's happening. I don't know how many times you could let somebody launch a missile at your country and not strike back. I just don't know how many times you could do that. I don't think we'd do that once in this country. Hell, we attacked countries just because, they seemed a lot like the country that attacked us after 9/11. I see it coming. You might disagree with me on that. But I don't think they're wrong to want to strike back. Not at all. I mean, again, I'm half Jewish. I grew up hearing the stories from my grandparents about the Holocaust, and it sticks with me. And this anti-Semitism that I see on this planet drives me nuts. And I see it, and I feel it, and I worry about it. And, if you think that this anti-Semitism is only coming from the left, you haven't been paying attention at all. There's a lot more anti-Semitism coming from the right, but I'll tell you, there is some on the left too. And I don't like it wherever it comes from. It needs to be called out. I also don't like Islamophobia either. I don't like hatred of anyone based on their religion or the color of their skin or their sexuality or their sex or their class or for any reason. But it's there. And we live in a chaotic world. The question is, do we want to make it more chaotic? Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. I'm also at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube. If you ever wanted to know what I looked like while I was doing one of these rants, go to at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube, and you could see me doing these rants on YouTube. Not this one today, but a lot of them. So check it out at The Aggressive Progressive on YouTube. Wherever you get YouTube, and watch me on News Nation. I'm on there all the time. So let's just talk for a minute about how the media is upset with Kamala Harris deciding to go on a media tour and not, avoiding some of the, more traditional outlets. She went on a podcast called Call Me, hosted by a woman named Alex Cooper. By the way, it has a huge audience, particularly with young women under the age of 30. And you might be saying to yourself, well, she's doing really well with women under the age of 30. Well, America, you got to get them to come out and vote, right? Just because they'll answer the phone and say that they're supporting you doesn't mean they're going to come out. So you got to meet them where they are, right? Voters under the age of 30 are the least likely to show up on election day. So, very important that she goes out and talks to these voters. She's also going on 60 Minutes, but I am really looking forward to, and I know I've mentioned this, her going on the Howard Stern show. Now, you all know me, huge Howard Stern fan. Very excited about this. I'm hoping that it won't delay the release of this incredible phony phone call we've all been waiting for, where a fake Liam Neeson talks to Wolfie's mom. I'm not going to get into details about it. If you're not a Stern fan, you won't know what I'm talking about. If you are a Stern fan, you are rolling on the floor laughing right now. It is, look, I think going on Stern is a great thing, and I think she should do it more often. I'd like to see Donald Trump come back on Stern and then answer the question, why do you think it's okay to blame the other party for a crazy person trying to assassinate you? And in the same rally, talk about how it's dangerous for Kamala Harris voters to explain that they are Kamala Harris voters because they might get beaten up by your supporters. See, I'm worried about the rhetoric that this man has been engaged in over the last couple of weeks, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And the lies just keep coming no matter what the topic, right? Donald Trump is a bold-faced liar and will lie through his teeth about everything. He is lying to people in North Carolina. He is lying to people in Georgia about the FEMA response to the hurricane that went through there 2 weeks ago. He will now start to lie about the FEMA response in Florida. Now, the question I have to these voters on the grounds in those states, are you going to believe the lie, or are you going to believe what's right in front of your face? That FEMA's there on the ground doing the work of FEMA to try to restore those communities. He's lying about this $750 that FEMA gives out to people immediately for immediate needs in the aftermath of a hurricane or a natural disaster. They give them a gift card for $750 so that they could buy the supplies they need, like diapers and food. Maybe they need some clothing immediately because they've been, put out of their home. They're in shelters that FEMA put up, or maybe they're in a hotel that FEMA's putting them up in, and they're given some money so that they can, spend it on things they need. That is not the entirety of the grant. Yet he lies about that on a daily basis. And I'm just hoping that those people vote. I'm hoping that some of them were going to vote for him and have said, you know what, this guy's such a liar. He's lying right to my face about something I know. And the worst thing you could do to a voter is lie to them about them. And Donald Trump right now in North Carolina and in Georgia are lying to voters in those states about them, about the experience that they're having right now. It's just like when Donald Trump said in the debate, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. That's not true. That is not true at all. Not even true a little bit. It's not even true in the Republican Party. No, in fact, the polls show that about 75% of Americans didn't want it overturned. It was a couple of small minorities in the Republican Party that wanted it completely overturned, and they were the ones who Trump was outsourcing the judiciary to. So maybe Trump himself didn't want it, but his actions, of course, made it happen. So he owns it now. He's the reason why Roe doesn't exist, and he's lying to voters about something the voters know about themselves. And we've got to remind voters every single day how often he lies. And the best example to showing a voter about how this guy lies is when he lies to them about themselves. I mean, he's lying. I mean, people are going through hell in those states, and he's just lying about it, making it worse. Just like he's doing in Springfield, Ohio. Lying about what's going on in Springfield, Ohio. And he wants to go to Springfield, Ohio and have a rally and lie some more right to the face of the voters in Springfield, Ohio. Oh my God, there are Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. Yeah, you know how you know they're Haitians in Springfield, Ohio? They invited them there. These are people with legal status who escaped a natural disaster and were given temporary legal status in this country. And they were invited to Springfield to work in their industrial facilities that had a massive shortage of workers. I think a pretty good idea on the part of Ohio and a part of Springfield. It's what you want to see happen when you need people to work in these facilities. Now, one of the big problems in this country the last couple of years was a shortage of workers. And when you find a source of workers who are willing to move to your community, you take it. And that's what Springfield did. And now they're being made to feel unwelcome in their home community because of somebody like Trump. Making it unlivable, not just for the Haitians in Springfield, but for others in Springfield, Ohio. J.D. Vance is their senator. He should be ashamed of himself. Getting close, America. We're inside 30 days. We are in the end game now. Do not take your foot off the gas. I think this is going to break towards her. You've heard me say it, and I believe it. But faith without works is dead, America. We need to get out there. We need to work hard. We need to win this. Because the consequences of failure are immense. We will feel them for a generation or more, maybe forever. It'll impact not just us, but the rest of the planet. So get out there and work. I feel really good about where we're going. I feel really good about the candidate. I just, it's 4 weeks, and 4 weeks is an eternity. And it's going to fly by at the same time. I know those are two conflicting statements, but it is an eternity in politics, and it will fly by. Before you know it, we'll be eating turkey. Question is, will it be our last Thanksgiving? Anyway, I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth. Question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth, America. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again next week to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for listening to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.